Hi, my name is Helen Tarrant. I'm an educator and a specialist commercial buyer's agent. Now, one of the other questions that my clients and also my students ask me is about office space. Now, they're very worried about vacancies in office space because one of the things with office space is that it looks so similar. One office space has exactly the same door, the landing looks the same, one building looks the same as the other, but the rate per square meter could change. Also, having high vacancies in one area compared to other, it creates a little bit of volatility and they're not quite sure about the tenant in there. But one of the things I find key about office spaces is not to have a blanket statement, because a property in Sydney CBD compared to a office space in Epping have very, very different demographics, different type of tenants, and their vacancy rates can vary. It's the same as having a property in Blackburn, in Melbourne, compared to Melbourne CBD, St Kilda. So very, very different type of tenant, very different type of property, very different rate per square meter in rent, as well as the occupancy rate. But that's like saying anywhere, like even in Brisbane. Now, Brisbane CBD do generally and still had for the last few years a high vacancy rate, but that doesn't mean that you cannot invest in Brisbane in office space, because there's many, many other areas on the outskirts of Brisbane or that's out of Brisbane that is going to be very, very solid. So, you've got areas that are near Sunnybank, you've got areas that are, in your Chermsides, you've got areas further down towards your Bingley areas, and you've got further up towards Ipswich. Those areas themselves can be a little micro economy where actually the office space environment could be really, really tight, which means there's very little vacancy. And you can't look at it and go, oh my goodness, there is 10 or 12% vacancy rate in Brisbane, so I'm not going to invest in Brisbane. And that's the same when you look at Melbourne. You might look at a office space in St Kilda and you go, oh my God, they have rolling leases, the tenants are on 1-year leases, and they're not really, that's not very secure. But you might shift that and realize, somewhere in Frankston or somewhere else in Mills Park or somewhere else towards your Glen Waverleys are really, really solid, and there's actually an actual demand. So I encourage you, when you look at commercial property, not to have a blanket statement, not to look at the full lease section of real commercial or commercial real estate and go, oh my God, there's 60 vacant spaces in that area. Because what you will find is that always going to be more vacant things on the market than there is tenanted items. But what you need to assess the property on its own merit. So what is this area like? What is the demand in this area? Why do people prefer office space? Now, there may be, with the change of work going on in the area, that people actually prefer to work local. So people rather take a little bit less pay, work somewhere local, than trek all the way to the city. So if that's the case, you might find there's a lot more demand in the area for professional office space rather than people going to the city. On another note, it's also much cheaper for people to rent an office space out of the city than it is in the city. So in a sense, they have less overheads, which makes the business more sustainable in the long term. The other option to look at for office space is, what can you do with that office space? Can it be divided into 2 or 3 smaller spaces? Therefore, you have 2 or 3 different tenants, stagger your leases, reduce the level of vacancy. So overall, when you study office spaces, really focus on the area, focus on the demand in the area, and focusing on what the retenancy period and the type of tenant you're getting in there. So because you want to maintain getting your rents at the certain level, and you can only do that by looking at the tenant mix and what is the demographic in that area. So it is not to be put with a blanket statement. So when you look through it, do your area research, do your tenant research, and go a little bit deeper and start looking at the demographic of the area. My name is Helen Tarrant, and if you want to replace your income through commercial property, I want to help you in your journey. So if you want to find out more about what I do and how I can help you, click on the link below, and I look forward to helping you in your journey.